San Francisco, the most beautiful city in the world, and from where I perched, I had a perfect view, especially of the Golden Gate Bridge. But for me, nothing was golden, and there was no gate, because I had been caged inside Alcatraz, the darkest big house you could imagine. Today I was finally free, a jailbird no longer. They sent me away for 5 long years, and for what? I was found guilty of defacing a national monument, but that was a load of crap. They said the damage to the U.S. Capitol was so great that part of the dome had to be covered and rebuilt. But was it my fault that nature called and I did my duty? Was it fate sticking out its foot to clip my wings? Or was someone else responsible for my crime? After all, I'd done just what the police would say I did, even if I didn't. What was the matter with me? Who was I? A sucker, a sap, nothing but a confused, witless gull, that's for sure. Of course, the feds didn't bother to really investigate the case, figuring a bird in the pen was worth 2 in the bush. Now that I had flown the coop, I had to get answers. But discovering the truth would take me on some detours. Who set me up? Who? I had my suspicions and knew where to turn. There were plenty of stool pigeons in town, but the best was Lucky Louie, that was his downtown name, who hung around the docks. For a few lousy crumbs, he was sure to squawk. Most pigeons like the taste of blood, raw hamburger meat, but Louie only went for the bread. He was bun crazy. Sure enough, he spilled. It was Raven who framed me, and that really stuck in my gullet. Raven was an old friend, originally a cat-loving gun-for-hire before he became his own crime boss. Getting to Raven wouldn't be easy. First I had to find his hideout, his nest he called it, and then figure out who was working for him. Louis told me to look up Raven's old flame Polly, who worked as an exotic singer and dancer at the Flamingo Club. Driving through the asphalt jungle to the club was no piece of cake, but after a bumpy ride, I got there.
Left. It said follow these cars.
Well, what cars? I didn't know when there were no cars when you said...
This way. I guess I'll just have my soundtrack anyway.
I was supposed to be quiet?
It doesn't matter.
Hello.
Polly was a big talker, if a bit monotonous, and had a strange kind of beauty. Not the beauty of a she-gull, mind you, but somebody you might think about while you were with your wife. I knew I'd have to give her more than a cracker if she was to bite. At first she was uncooperative.
Stupid cow. Whatever. Whatever. Darn.
But then she began to open up. Staring at a clock, she kept on repeating, "Joe, Joe, I'll be waiting for you," which was funny because that's not my name. I knew I was way in over my head, but baby, I didn't care. She eventually gave me a book of mugshots she had taken from an old buzzard called Uncle Lon, who had been in tight with the police. Leafing through the book of criminals to identify Raven's gang, I noticed a bunch of colorful characters and more than a few odd ducks. There was that ravenous old buzzard Uncle Lon himself. There was Ollie, the oldest, wisest con in Alcatraz. He knew everybody in and out of the joint, but I realized he wouldn't give a hoot to help me catch Raven. I noticed the Havel brothers, skilled safecrackers but loyal family men, guys you could really trust. In my book, one good turn always deserves another. There was Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. He was clearly a red, sticking his long beak where it didn't belong. They had been caught spying for the commies and were facing the chair. She tried to put up a defense, but didn't have much of a leg to stand on. Commies? I just don't like them. Why couldn't they be regular crooks like the rest of us? I saw Bart and Annie, a flighty stick-up couple that got into trouble during their last heist. I surely didn't want to end up like them, a pair of dead ducks. Their first fledgling crimes were easy, water off their backs. But once these two lovebirds fell for each other, their goose was cooked. Then I began to zero in on Raven's gang. There was the big hooligan who lived on Sesame Street, and Tweety, who was cute but didn't have too much upstairs. These bird brains wouldn't give me too much trouble, and if I happened to see them together, I could kill the two with one stone. There was Fantail. He was a gay mockingbird who enjoyed poking fun at his boss, Raven. I would make him eat crow. Higher up the pecking order, I came across some of the meanest, nastiest creatures who loved to prey on the weak. Hawk, who would just as soon tear your liver out as look at you, and Baldy, whose eagle eye could spot a victim a mile away. Then there was Raven himself, perhaps not as scary as the other predators to look at, but the blackest of the bunch. Make no mistake about it, these were angry birds, and I knew I would not be playing any games when I ran into them. But if I could get a clear bead on their hideout, a bird's eye view of their daily operations, I knew I could cut through all the fog and smoke to take down Raven and his gang. I had been up in the air about Raven's whereabouts, but suddenly realized he had been right by me all along, following my every move. It was simply a matter of turning the tables, and then he would be the sitting duck, not me. Confronting him near the reflecting pond by the Capitol, the scene of my supposed crime, I caught him off guard, all alone. For all his preening and strutting, I knew the cocky double dealer was just a chicken at heart, and this would be the kiss of death, even if it smelled like honeysuckle. This is your swan song, Raven. You're all washed up. I love you too, he replied, but it was too late. His treachery had come home to roost. And so ends this jailbird's foul, foul tale of sorrow and revenge.